Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, and the parents of Elsie and Bebe, two of the victims of the Southport incident, have decided to share their story and give a voice to Elsie and Bebe. And they've done their first interview today in the Sunday Times. And I'm going to read out this interview to you. Get your tissues ready because, of course, it's very sad. But I think there is a message of hope in here. The families have taken this decision to speak out. They'll explain that in the article. So I'm simply going to read it out just so that you can hear their voices, what they've got to say, the reason that they're doing the interview. And also there is some lovely photos and footage of their daughters, which I think is important for them because this is how they want their daughters to be remembered. Southport families, we are looking for light in the darkness. The parents of Bebe King and Elsie Stancombe want the world to know what they were like. Their joy, their jokes and dreams as they relive that awful July day. Look at these two little angels. Bebe King 6 on the left and Elsie Stancombe 7 on the right. And they have given permission, obviously, for all these photos, and there are some videos as well. This is how they want their children, their daughters, to be remembered. Elsie Stancombe and Bebe King never knew each other, but their parents believed they were alike and they could have become friends. They use the same words to describe their daughters. Confident, happy, emotionally intelligent, enthusiastic, affectionate. Both girls cared deeply about others. It has been 6 months since 7-year-old Elsie and 6-year-old Bebe were killed, alongside 9-year-old Alice de Silva Aguiar at a Taylor Swift-themed dance workshop in Southport, run by Leanne Lucas, a home tutor who set up the 2-hour class on July the 29th. 8 other girls and 2 adults, including Leanne, were seriously injured. Leanne was Elsie's private tutor, giving her extra help with reading and writing. Bebe had been to puppy yoga classes run by Leanne. Neither family has spoken publicly until now. They want to speak today so that their children are remembered, not by the sentencing remarks of a judge in Liverpool Crown Court, but for their personalities and characters. Now, they were quite angry about the judge's remarks, weren't they, and the details that the judge gave. We meet in a hotel on Lord Street in Southport and are sitting at a round table in a conference room. They've just left a meeting with Sir Keir Starmer in the week that a damning report was published on missed chances by counter-terrorism police to stop the attacker. Everyone says it, don't they? Jenny Stancombe says, that they're one of a kind. But she truly was. It takes her a few moments to gather her strength to speak. Everybody at the table is crying. The grief of 2 mothers and 2 fathers, absolutely raw. People struggling but staying strong. Jenny is every inch the protective, loving, caring mother. Her main worry today is not being able to find the words to do her daughter justice. It was an honour to be her mum. Sometimes I think people are born special, and I genuinely believe she was. Oh, oh, bless her. Everything she did was pure enthusiasm. It could be the most boring thing, even like David taking the bins out. And it was like, I'll come. She was grateful for life. David Stancombe remembers that same enthusiasm and energy. On a school day, you would have to drag her out of bed. But on a Saturday, she was up at 6:30 a.m. and it was like, morning, mummy, morning, daddy. David's mother died 2 years ago. And Jenny says, when he went out running, Elsie would be like, I'll run with you, Dad. I'll go out with you, Dad. Elsie once saw her father with his head on the kitchen counter. She came over and said, you're thinking about Nana, aren't you? Says David, 36. And I said, yeah. But she would always ask Jenny about her Nana and not me. It's like she just knew. So this is Elsie's mum and dad, Jenny and David. I watched Soul, the Disney Pixar film about a near-death experience with her. And I haven't seen that film. You know, now once your children grow up, that's one thing that's so nice, isn't it? About having young children, you get to see all the kids' films. And she had a lot of questions about passing away because she couldn't understand why Nana wasn't there, says Jenny, 35. She cries, calling Elsie her best friend. Jenny and David hold hands at times. Beside David is Jenny's brother, Chris, an architect based in Liverpool. Jenny worked as a Sainsbury's store manager. They have another child 4 years younger than Elsie. There are so many memories. They would go on holiday to Mallorca and Corfu. David remembers a time when he ran to Ainsdale train station, Elsie riding her bike alongside him. There's a children's library section in the train station, and there's a picture of her holding up a train ticket with a story we've read, he says. He had been unable to look at pictures of her until last night when he scrolled through his phone and found the photo. Elsie never liked her parents to be alone. Jenny would say she was going to the shop, and immediately Elsie would say, I'll come. Even if it was iPad time on a Friday evening, a rare treat. She enjoyed crafting. Her last Christmas present was a sewing machine, which she used to make dresses and tops. And here we've got a little video of her using her sewing machine, bless her. Clever girl, isn't she? At that age, I don't think I would have been very good at using a sewing machine. Wow, clever girl. Oh, so cute. So yeah, there she is, Elsie with the sewing machine she got last Christmas. She would try every club, gymnastics, swimming, ballet, before eventually settling on cheerleading. She was highly intelligent, with an exceptional memory for history lessons, such as the Great Fire of London, but she struggled a little with her reading and writing. So her parents hired a private tutor for an hour every Saturday morning. That tutor was Leanne Lucas, who so bravely tried to protect the children from their 17-year-old attacker, enduring life-changing injuries from his knife. During the 3-hour interview, not once is the attacker mentioned by name, When he must be referred to, he is he, him, or the offender. And I think that's what I'm going to do in future. I'm not going to mention his name. He's, he's in prison, he's been sentenced, that's the end of it. Elsie was so emotional. When I say the end of it, I mean that's the end of all we need to know about him. Obviously, it's nice to hear about the girls, because, during the sort of build up to the sentencing, etc., and all those horrible riots, and it's all been about him, hasn't it? It's about these girls. This is what counts. And I think the parents are so brave to do this interview. But I understand exactly why they've done it, because they want their daughters to be remembered how they were, not what they were reduced to. Elsie was so emotionally intelligent, but she struggled to read and write, Jenny said. They thought she might be dyslexic because the teachers told us that a child cannot be that intelligent and so articulate and struggle so much with reading and writing. Oh, Elsie went to Leanne for 18 months for private tutoring every Saturday morning. I was just trying to give her a better start in life, that's all it was. She cries at the thought, knowing those lessons eventually led Elsie to the Taylor Swift dance class. Elsie loved going to Leanne's house for lessons. I don't like the way they use the surnames. Why are they doing that? With the victims, their names. Leanne, her name is Leanne. She really came on in her reading and writing, David recalls. Leanne ran a competition and all the children submitted a story. Elsie's story was called The Bear and the Reindeer. She came runner-up and had her story put on the wall of the local arts centre, and she was just over the moon. Oh, it's so cute. Jenny remembers the moment well. She got a £100 book voucher. She was so proud. She says, for someone who struggled with reading and writing, it was a big step. She loved Leanne's little dog, Maggie. We would drop her off at her house. She had it all set up, really professional. Leanne was obviously a very capable teacher. Elsie came on. We only stopped the lessons a couple of weeks before what happened. Even the day I dropped Elsie off on that day, Leanne was saying, I missed you, Elsie. And she picked her up and hugged her. Leanne adored Elsie. You couldn't spend that amount of one-on-one time and not fall in love with her. Bebe's mother and father have been listening quietly across the table, both of them in tears, hearing a story so similar to their own. They cannot be named due to a court order. Bebe's mother, 41, is a training executive for a travel firm. She is confident and articulate with a good sense of humour. Oh, look. Oh, what a photo. Gosh. What a photo. Oh. Bebe was confident and a natural performer. Bebe's father, 43, who works for Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, sits beside her, holding it together as they learn how to navigate their new lives. They also live in Southport, but they did not know Jenny and David until the aftermath of the tragedy. Bebe was taught ballet by Heidi Liddell, Leanne's friend, who helped her run the Taylor Swift event, and also did puppy yoga with Leanne. Oh God, why do they keep using her surname? I literally just think they're angels, Bebe's mother says of the two girls. Bebe operated on such a high frequency. She had this power to connect with people, and the relationships she had with all her family members were different but very special. She had this innate kindness. She had a spark. One of the things that was really special about her was that she was hilarious. She used to make me belly laugh. She would do impressions. She would try stupid accents. Even when she was a baby, she would have me belly laughing. And there she is. She looks like a real character, doesn't she? Bless. When she was 3, she loved Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. We used to do videos on the phone and do characters and pick a Disney character. She would look at camera and go, Snozzwangers, the name of the predatory creatures in Loompaland. She would come out with the most random stuff. She would look at you. She would do it and look at you and laugh as if to say, I'm dead funny, aren't I? And she would give you this hug and say, I love you, Mama. Oh. At the time, Bebe was headstrong. I was looking at videos of us in Marks and Spencer, and in one she picked up an Elsa from Frozen dress and looked at me, and I said, Bebe, you're not getting that dress. And she said, her mother puts on a stern voice, I've told you 5 times I want this dress. Bebe's father remembers the countless children's birthday parties, classic church hall affairs, chairs around the sides, parents not knowing each other, children who were shy. She would go over to the shy ones and she would literally pull them in. She was so confident and full of life. Oh, look. Oh. A natural performer with a love of musicals, Bebe would often grab a microphone and start singing in front of a group. She would sing a lot of Frozen. I'm a big fan of Beyonce, and she would sing and perform her songs, like doing energy with all the moves. N-E-G, Bebe's mother says, laughing through her tears, acting out her daughter's dance moves. We would sing it and it would be full belt in the car going for it. The family would sing along to the Shrek musical, each of them doing their part. We took her to see Wicked, the musical. She was so excited to watch the film. Bebe's mother cries, looking down. The film premiered in the UK in November, 4 months before the attack. After the attack. We only just missed it. She recovers after a moment. She was the best. She was just... Me and her had our own little language. Sometimes we would just look at each other and know what each other were thinking. Bebe had only become interested in Taylor Swift at the start of last year and loved her song Love Story. She wouldn't just sing it, her mother says. She would perform it. Look at her face. Oh my God, so beautiful, so cute. So Bebe was a big fan of musicals and had been to see Wicked. Her parents came up with her name after a trip to Hollywood, where they saw the blues guitarist B.B. King's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We used to go into the pharmacy and see the looks when they said her name on the computer, B.B. King. She wanted to change her name to Matilda, like the musical. And like Roald Dahl's Matilda, Bebe was a big reader, above average for her age. Her father would take her to the library, where they would sit together in a little boat in the children's area, reading stories together. He wells up with tears as he recounts this. He had a really special bond with Bebe, his wife says. So there they are in silhouette. They can't be named for legal reasons. On a hot summer's day in Southport, the two families' lives changed forever, and this unimaginable attack triggered a summer of unrest, including riots in Southport, Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, Stoke, Blackpool, Belfast, Darlington, Plymouth, Hartlepool, Rotherham and London. As police crashed with protesters, Starmer condemned the far-right thuggery. By December, more than 400 people had been sentenced for offences in connection with the disorder, from a 12-year-old boy who threw stones at police in Southport to an 81-year-old man from Nottingham who received a 2-year suspended sentence after admitting assault. A 27-year-old man from Swinton, near Rotherham, was sentenced to 9 years in jail with a 5-year licence period for starting a fire outside a hotel that housed hundreds of asylum seekers. July the 29th, 2024. Something awful has happened. You need to get here. Southport is an affluent, safe and family-friendly seaside town. A perfect place to raise a young family. I'm such a risk-averse person, honestly, Jenny says. I'm renowned for being the boring one. I just weigh up every risk. David lets them go to school on a scooter. I won't even let them go to school on a scooter if there's a tiny bit of curb that is slightly lifted in case they go over the handlebars and hurt themselves. In our friend group, I ruin every activity because I make sure it's safe. I wouldn't let the wind blow on the kids, honestly. Do you know, and I do think it's strange, isn't it? Is there because, sometimes you feel that, children that are watched, constantly by caring parents who worry about them. And then sometimes things happen to them. Then some kids are just left to their own devices. And you wonder how they ever manage to get into adolescence because, some parents don't care where their kids are and what they're doing. It's ironic, isn't it? These parents just seem so caring, so attentive. But, that's it. When evil walks like it did that day, that's how it feels to me. It really does feel like there was some sort of evil presence there, like some sort of possession or whatever, I don't know. But how awful, because you must go over and over in your head, if you would have acted differently. But of course, you can't do that to yourself. For anyone, for this to happen to, Jenny stops to cry. Her words hardly audible. She pushes through. I would never, ever have put her in danger, ever. I just never would. Of course you wouldn't. You didn't put her in danger. I still cut Elsie's food into tiny bits for the fear. I was probably over-obsessed that she was okay. The Taylor Swift dance class, advertised by Leanne, quickly sold out. Jenny was in a WhatsApp group with about 50 parents. Leanne wrote a message in it, by the way, guys, and shared the details of the class. Everybody was like, put me on the waiting list, Jenny says. The 23 spots went just like that. One of Elsie's school friends was going to the class and her mother messaged Jenny saying, have you got her a space? And I was like, oh no, I knew it had sold out. So I messaged Leanne saying, oh, I totally forgot to pay for Elsie. And she messaged saying, no problem, I'll always have a place for Elsie. And she kept one. I just always think that if she'd given it away. Jenny looks away, tears streaming down her face. But then I would never have wished this on anybody else. Yeah. Yeah, you can see that. You sort of wish, obviously she wishes that her daughter hadn't gone, but yeah, she doesn't want to wish it on anybody else. So all this guilt that's left behind, and the actual perpetrators not feeling any remorse. Everybody else is feeling guilty. The class was a one-off, 2-hour workshop at Heart Space, a studio tucked away behind quiet residential streets. Elsie loved everything about Taylor Swift. Her music, her performances, She was a Swiftie through and through, Jenny says. Jenny and David dropped her off at 10 a.m. The mother of Elsie's friend said that Elsie was welcome to come back to her house for a play date afterwards if Jenny did not mind. She said, "I'll drop her off at 3. I asked Elsie, "Do you want to go to your friends afterwards?" And she said, yeah. Jenny took Elsie up the stairs to the studio, and Leanne was at the door to meet her. She picked her up and hugged her, and this is Leanne with her dog. Oh. Of course, Leanne has suffered terrible injuries. She was discharged from hospital, then readmitted, but she's discharged now. But don't know, the details haven't been released, which is good, but they're described as life-changing injuries. Leanne Lucas, seriously injured in the attack. Jenny watched her daughter run into the studio where the other children were sitting in a circle. Elsie had just had her ears pierced after 2 years of asking and was excited to show her friend. I watched her sit down and waved her off, and I left her. Jenny takes a moment to steady herself before continuing. That'd be a very difficult thing to think about, but you know what? She left her. She was happy. She was looking forward to that day. And Jenny, of course, she has nothing to reproach herself for, but I'm sure she still is doing that. They returned home. Just before midday, Jenny got a call from the other mother. Something awful has happened. Somebody has stabbed the kids, she said. I said, what do you mean? I mean, I just can't imagine that phone call. That would be like surreal, wouldn't it? She said, it's really bad. You need to get here. Jenny and David left their house, speeding in their car. I just ran. I left the whole house open and got in the car. It's a 5-minute drive from ours, and we must have got there in a minute. We kept our hands on the horn, going faster and faster, jumping every red light on the road. We were on the other side of the road. People throwing their hands up to us. I just didn't care. I just kept whacking the horn. We got there and just deserted the car in the middle of the road and ran, just ran. By that point, police started trying to push people back. They both tried to get inside the studio. David fought with police officers to get inside, but they held him back. The police just lifted David off his feet and said, "You're not getting in there, mate." They ran off in different directions, searching for Elsie. You knew when you got there how bad it was, David says. No human being should ever have to witness what we witnessed that day. Jenny called her brother, who drove from Liverpool, ambulances passing him in the other direction, helicopters in the sky, police sirens going past him. Oh, this is Alice. At the scene, David overheard somebody saying there'd been 2 fatalities, which would later become 3. I didn't move from the gate the whole time, David says. So yeah, this is Alice da Silva Aguiar, the 3rd victim of the attack, bless her. They asked police for information. I wanted to be told she's in an air ambulance and tell me where she is so I can go to find her. Jenny's hands shake as she remembers. I was just like, come on. Elsie died inside the dance studio during the attack. Bebe's parents tell their own story of the day. Bebe's aunt was getting married the next day and the whole family were busy preparing. We woke up that morning, got ready. Bebe was moaning about what she wanted to wear, her mother remembers. In the end, she came in with a beautiful pink outfit. They dropped me off at the beauty salon. I was getting my nails done for the wedding. Bebe's father dropped Bebe off at 10 a.m. at Heart Space and went home, returning just before midday for pickup. I got down Hart Street and I saw straight away there were ambulances all over the place, he says. I couldn't park down there. I pulled up. There were residents walking around. I asked, what's going on? And somebody said, there's somebody there stabbing kids. And it still didn't register. I got closer and closer, and there was no cordon. He could see children outside. He could see Lucas, Leanne, who was in a bad way, receiving medical attention. He has a memory of seeing Jenny at the scene, running down the street. I walked down the road and there was a house with 10 kids who had gone seeking refuge in it. I didn't really get how serious it was. I was just in shock. All the parents were there. It was madness. He rang his wife and told her, you need to get here. Bebe's mother remembers being in Marks and Spencer. I was just about to put my card in the machine and he called. I can't believe I'm telling you this, but somebody has gone into the dance class with a knife, he said. She ran outside and jumped into a taxi. The driver dropped her off at the end of the street and I just ran. Bebe's father at that point still thought Bebe might be in a house being looked after. He searched around the streets. He gave the police a description of Bebe. Then a female police officer approached. We had given people Bebe's description. When that person came towards me, I could feel the blood drain from me and I went cold. I knew she was going to tell me something, and she did. Are you Bebe's dad? As soon as I said yes, she said she had passed away. Bebe's mother was just behind him. She fell to her knees screaming. Chris, Elsie's uncle, was there, and he says he will never forget the sound. She has no memory of what happened in those moments. Paramedics draped her in blankets to keep her warm. They told me Bebe had died when I was standing on the corner of a street. Her mother says, shaking her head, eyes red from crying. A relative who lived close by pulled them into her house. We were in that house and the whole family came, Bebe's father says. I called my mum and sister and they were at the wedding venue. The wedding got cancelled. Gosh, dear me. He had no idea at the time who had carried out the attacks. David never gave it a second thought. I honestly didn't have the logic to put a perpetrator in the building to think that's who did it. I just thought, what is going on? Bebe's family were assigned family liaison officers by Merseyside Police, and they say they became more like friends. Both families agree the police liaisons were amazing. The riots. All we could hear were sirens and helicopters. So while the parents struggled to cope with the trauma of their children being killed at an event that they had booked as a treat, news began to spread the next day that the far right had arrived in Southport and a riot had broken out at a mosque. In the hours after the attack, the families were told by the liaison officers to come off all their social media accounts. God, how disrespectful those people were, making it all about them. Chris remembers being in David and Jenny's house with a group of Jenny's friends. It was 6 or 7 in the evening, Chris says. All we could hear was sirens and helicopters. Jenny decided to post a message on Facebook. This is the only thing that I will write, but please stop the violence in Southport tonight. Those people didn't care about these children. They just wanted to use that event for their own agenda. The police have been nothing but heroic these last 24 hours, and we don't need this. Elsie, Bebe and Alice's names had been released hours earlier. She just put it on Facebook, Chris says. She didn't do it intentionally in the knowledge it would be picked up on the news, but it was a point of frustration. hearing the sirens and the helicopters. David and Chris both went incognito to the scene of the riot the next day to witness the wreckage in the street. The families did not want to comment on the riots. Bebe's family avoided the news altogether. But David says, I had sympathy for the police, and that's the truth. After what they'd been through, that's God's honest truth. How dare you put them through that? The riots continued from July the 30th to August the 7th, as the far-right agitator Tommy Robinson used his X account to promote gatherings around the country. Southport grieves. It was like a state funeral. The whole community came out. At 11 a.m. on Saturday, August the 17th. Bebe's funeral took place in a private ceremony at St. Cuthbert's Church in Southport. It was beautiful, her mother remembers. It was Bebe's church for the day. She used to love this T-shirt that said Strong Girls Club on it. All our friends and family wore them. We were allowed bubbles in the church. It was beautiful. My friends were like little worker bees. We made everyone a little package of bracelets which had shimmer and star on. And they got a set of bubbles and wildflower seeds to be spread in the garden. That's lovely, isn't it? That's a good idea. And we had the celebration afterwards. Bebe had a white horse and carriage. It's not very us, her parents laughed, but it was for her. We knew that she would want that. Oh, that tiny little coffin. So this is the funeral cortege of Bebe on its way to St. Cuthbert's Church in Southport. So they say the community really helped them. During that time, the funeral directors would accept no money and gifts and donations flooded in. It's about this community. Do you know what? The most people in this world, we always talk about this crazy world and, obviously the true crime content, cover a lot of things that was particularly harrowing, wasn't it? But most people are good people. Most people are. We always have to remember that. People are capable of terrible things, like what happened to these girls, but also people are capable of great kindness. It's about this community. It has brought light in the darkness, these little moments, and that's what we're constantly looking for right now. Bebe's parents also found the opportunity to say goodbye in their own way. Alder Hey Hospital in Liverpool has a bereavement suite that allowed them to spend time with Bebe before the funeral. We spent a week with her after, her mother says, and she was perfect. It was like she was asleep. She had pajamas on. There were night lights, and it was like she was asleep. Even though it was hard for us at first, we know now for us it was the right thing to do. I held her hand. All our family came. We got her christened. We were supposed to get her christened age 2, but we did it in the suite and the whole family were there. Everybody could say their goodbyes the way they wanted to. On the last day, her mother and father did a final bedtime routine, reading her Jack and the Beanstalk, her favourite book, before leaving. I kissed her, her mother says, and that's how we will remember her. A few weeks later came Elsie's funeral at St. John's Church in Birkdale. In a eulogy read on their behalf, her parents said she had brought them nothing but happiness. It was an amazing day, Chris says. The police did an amazing job, shut the roads, the whole community came out. Friends and family, David and Jenny, we had a procession. We didn't anticipate what it would be like. It was like a state funeral. There were thousands. Now I remember they gave this funeral a name, didn't they? They called it Elsie's Special Day. And they bright colours decorated St. John's Church in Birkdale for the funeral of Elsie. David remembers the number of roads they had to walk to get to the church. 5. Jenny was saying 1, 2, 3, counting the roads, he says. The funeral was public to represent her nature. She was very outgoing, David said. She was just like Jenny. I used to say to Elsie, just be like your mum. He struggles to say that sentence. He is strong, but the grief is overwhelming. Those beautiful balloons and things. Yeah, she would. Elsie would have loved it, of course, from what they say about her. Now, this, I'm not a royalist, but this is lovely, the comfort that they receive from the royal family. One source of genuine comfort for the families has been the efforts of the royal family. In October, the Princess of Wales visited the families in Southport, her first public engagement since finishing chemotherapy. That meant so much to Jenny, David says, because it was her first public appearance. I won't say what they said to us, but what they shared with us was really, really powerful. And it was a powerful message and heartfelt, and it meant a lot. And the Prince and Princess of Wales also met members of the emergency services who had responded to the attack. Bebe's mother adds, they were very human. The families also met Charles at Clarence Road, his London residence in August. They said he was genuine. We could see how much he cared. David says, laughing about the moment that Elsie's sister offered the king a biscuit. Now, they're very critical about the sentencing. This is a recent thing, isn't it, that's happened in the UK where sentencing is televised. And, I think this has been done in an attempt to improve transparency in the UK. But these families, they're not happy about it because I don't know if it's so much the sentencing, but the fact that all the details were released that they didn't want released. So maybe these things should be talked over more with the families. Some families probably want the sentencing to be televised. They want, you don't know how you would feel until you're in that position, but I expect there are families who want this person, want it to be known what this person did and how horrible they are, etc. Now, this is different because it's children. So they're it seems to me that maybe there should be more consultation with the families, and they should decide whether it should be televised or not. Or if it's going to be televised, which details. I know they were really angry about the details that were released. Because then they were reported everywhere as well. And some people like Mark Williams Thomas are still talking about them, just can't, even though they've been told. Now we know how the family feels now. Anyway, January was one of the hardest months for the families. They were preparing for a trial at Liverpool Crown Court with the Crown Prosecution Service and the police. It was a difficult process with endless meetings. We were in a fight or flight mode for the majority of it. January was horrific, Bebe's mother says. Neither family was in court on Monday, January the 20th, when, I'm not going to mention his name, he changed his plea to admit to 3 counts of murder, 10 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of possession of a knife, and charges regarding to production of resin and processing a study of an Al-Qaeda training manual. The families had been braced for 4 weeks of hearing harrowing evidence about their daughter's final moments. They were no longer going to have to endure it. That's the only, it would have been horrible, of course, but it's horrible anyway, but it would have been even more horrible. We were at home, Bebe's father says. My mum texted and then called. We just sat there in silence, mouth on the floor. David asked, completely gobsmacked. Jenny was in tears. I said, what's it mean? What's it mean? And Jenny said, we're not going to have the trial now. And then there was a moment and a little bit of hope that none of it was going to come out. And then there was a phone call that night off the liaison officers saying, we need to tell you because it's all going to come out. And we were like, what? On the Thursday, during sentencing, the court heard a summary of the prosecution's evidence, along with the judge's sentencing remarks, which were broadcast live, something neither families agreed with. The sentencing shouldn't have been televised, Chris says, and Bebe's father concurs. We know it has to be heard in court, but why did the whole nation need to see it on television? Obviously this is something that needs talking about because, making sentencing live is quite a recent thing in the UK. But and it's thought generally to be a good thing for transparency, etc. But of course, the families should be taken into account, shouldn't they? Or there should be some curtail on the details given at the sentencing. Because in any murder, of course, the details are upsetting and distressing. And you can see in this particular case, they did not want them revealed. This is why they're doing this interview, and they want people to remember their children as they were, not what happened to them on that day. They don't want to pass that power over to the perpetrator, do they? The judge's comments are the main reason for wanting to speak about Bebe now. They believe the injury detail went far beyond what was necessary. I got to say I agree with that because, it's something you can't get out of your head and do not want people to remember her that way. This is how they want people to remember her. What a beautiful photo. Hearing that the perpetrator had received a 52-year sentence changed little for the families. Bebe's family did not attend court. We didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing us, her father says. Keir Starmer has announced a public inquiry which the families support. The publication last week of a Home Office review on failures by Prevent to stop him exposed a litany of mistakes by the counter-terrorism scheme. His lack of an ideology but interest in extreme violence meant he fell through the cracks despite being referred to Prevent 3 times between 2019 and 2021 due to his interest in terrorist attacks and school shootings. It is a terrible travesty he's the perpetrator, he did it. But, how many other people have fallen through the cracks? How many other people are there out there just bombs waiting to explode like this boy? The next step is for families to help shape the terms of reference for the public inquiry, says Sarah Stranger, Director and Head of Serious Injuries and Public Inquiries at the law firm Bond Turner. We must ensure the inquiry leaves no stone unturned, scrutinising every single interaction he had with the agencies involved. It's critical to uncover exactly what was known about the dangers he posed and why no action was taken. More importantly, this must lead to real change, ensuring agencies work together to protect society from dangerous individuals. The families want these girls' legacy to be a force for change so that nothing like this ever happens again. Oh, she's a beautiful girl. But, just looking at these girls, all of them, you can see they were special So special, not just to their families, they looked special. They were loved, and they had unique personalities. So Elsie's parents have set up a charity, Elsie's Story, to help children in need. Gosh. The offender's name means little to the families. They would like to see change and more protection for children from the internet. The bottom line is the perpetrator was a child, Chris says. It looks like the overall framework wasn't fit for purpose, notwithstanding that some people are just born that way. I do think that. It's like a mixture of all of it, but I do think you have to be something wrong, not wired properly. You know, I've said this several times, because a lot of people might have a fascination with school shootings, especially teenagers. You know, teenagers go through very dark phases, of depressive phases. You know, they ideate about deleting themselves or deleting other people. They get, lots of teenagers go through that, but they don't all act on it, do they? There was something different about this boy, that he actually acted on it, but there were signs. He even said himself, how many more red flags can someone give than to actually say to authorities that they feel like killing somebody? What more can you how much more can you say before people take you seriously? Having access to such hateful information at their fingertips from day one, that's what we said was a factor. Life now is hard. David was a postman and he loved his job. Elsie used to say he could have done any job, but being a postman meant he could do drop-offs and pick-ups, and he delivered the post to Elsie's school. She would run over at lunchtime and wave at him with her friends. You know what's hard now, David says. You say to your kids every day, every night, I won't let anything happen to you. How could I say that to Elsie's sibling now? Because this has happened to Elsie. How could I sit there and say I would never let anything happen to you? Those words upset him greatly. None of the parents have gone back to work yet. David and Jenny have set up a charity, Elsie's Story, to help children in need and to put a smile on faces as big as Elsie's, according to her mother. It gives them a day-to-day focus, and the charity is preparing to make its first donation to a local child who has cancer. David is also preparing to run the London Marathon for the charity. Bebe's family will carry on living, they say, for Bebe. Her mother says, we cannot live our lives in anger. She was the most positive, bubbliest girl, and we have to honour that. She has brought our families and us closer, and we have to respect her and try and live life as full a life as we can. We have to live for Bebe and honour her and find light in the dark. That's where we are. So, and the families will appear in a television interview on Good Morning Britain on Monday. So that will be Monday, the 10th of February. Now, let's just, before I finish, let's just have a look at Elsie's charity. I think when you lose a child, I mean, obviously I don't know, and I hope, I hope I never find out, even an adult child. At least if you can set up something, some positive, that's what you'd want, is it? Well, first of all, you would want their name to be mentioned over and over again, wouldn't you? You wouldn't want them ever to be forgotten, not just by the family, but let's have a look. So this is the Instagram for Elsie.story. Oh. Oh. So, oh, this is the Instagram, but there'll be a website as well, etc. So yeah, you would want you don't want their name to be forgotten. You don't want it to be remembered in a negative way. You want it to be remembered in a positive way. And that's what will happen with this charity, Elsie's Story Charitable Trust. Let's see if we can find the website. And helping other children. So that way, Elsie is still alive. Her name is alive. She's doing good in the world that she probably would have ended up doing had she not had her life cut short. It's nice when people change the narrative. They're not letting the perpetrator and the evil and the horribleness of the whole thing be the thing that will be remembered. What will be remembered is Elsie. Let's see, that's an overview of it on the government website. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for... Don't know why the actual website is not coming up. Anyway, let's just have a look at the GoFundMe that was set up. Oh, that's a beautiful illustration, isn't it? The fundraising appeal for the charity, Elsie's Story. Just not sure why I can't find the actual website. It came up for Instagram. Let's see. This is an article talking about the charity, but let's see, maybe this. Yeah, it's just coming up with the Instagram, but yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing to do, and it will make sure that Elsie's name, these three girls, they're the ones that need to be remembered. I'm never mentioning that horrible man's name again. I never want to, every time I think, I just never want to mention him again. Something comes up, he's being discussed or whatever. As far as I'm concerned, that's the end of it as far as he's concerned. And what needs to be remembered are these three girls. And I think that was a lovely article with some lovely photos, videos, and I think in that and the interview that the families do on Monday for this morning, they'll have achieved their objective, which basically is they want people to remember these three girls, as they really were, not just what happened to them on that day. Okay, so I'm going to go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for caring about these three girls. And until I see you again, as always, may your God go with you.